Ladies and gentlemen, what is happening? Welcome to episode 172 of Byte That's weekly wrestling podcast, a place where we break down our thoughts about WWE TLC, which happened this past Sunday night, as well as the announcement of the Ironman match between Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair. We got an Ironman match already between Bayley and Sasha, so is this going to be any better? We're going to be talking about that, as well as James freaking Ellsworth. The man is tearing the house down on Smackdown Live, and speaking of tearing, yes, we will be talking about the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. Remember, the podcast is available every single Wednesday night on a variety of different podcast platforms, including our YouTube channel, which features a bunch of bonus content, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Also, if you want to support us directly for as little as $1, you can enjoy a raw and uncut video version of the podcast, as well as a PDF of our agenda. You can see what we write and how we go about developing this, which is a weekly podcast about the WWE. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I am also a little bit under the weather, so just want to clarify that. Do want to apologize right beforehand. With me is Ryan McNulty from Boston, Mass, and the birthday boy, Keith M. Poshek from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. He was so happy, Ryan, for his birthday that his body literally could not handle it, so he is feeling way worse than I am. He's been sick for almost a week, man.
His body was
almost
not ready.
It's insane.
His body was not ready. Yeah.
Not at all.
We think, okay, so Juan's a little sick and Keith can't even talk.
He's messed up. Yeah.
We have our year-end awards coming up in a couple of weeks. And we were supposed to get some of that done, and we couldn't do it.
Last weekend.
Yeah. We couldn't do that because Keith's voice.
Happened yet.
I talked to him on Skype that day, and his voice was just completely gone. And we think this is a curse for making fun of John Laurinaitis. I almost said John Laryngitis.
I won't even try to do the voice.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
We need you, man.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to tempt fate, and I feel like I was the one that instigated that too, so I could be next. Hopefully not, though.
Yeah, so we got to be very, very careful about that, but we're still going to be talking about a bunch of different things. By the way, yes, if you entered our BT Crate giveaway, we will be announcing the winner tonight or in the morning. It really depends on when you're listening to this. It's going to be this episode is what I'm trying to say here. But as always, we got to talk about what you guys think. We're going to get to first TLC. Ryan has a full review on the YouTube channel if you want to check it out. What did you think of it? Because personally, I am glad, as messed up as it sounds, that Keith was a little bit under the weather, because we were going to record our end of year before it, but TLC was such a solid show that I'm still thinking about it today. It's a show that I would not mind going back to watching again, because every match, even the chairs match, which we said we didn't care about, I cared about.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the small SmackDown roster is kind of like a blessing and a curse, because it has actually made a lot of long-running feuds, and it's kind of helped you care more about the feuds because they've been running so long. I mean, a lot of these feuds have been running essentially since SmackDown started with the new roster. And just when the matches are actually delivering, and some are exceeding expectations. Like you said, the chairs match, I don't think anyone going in was really that into Kalisto versus Baron Corbin. But I mean, Kalisto's kind of one of those guys. I'm pretty sure I said on one of the things that I don't give a damn about Kalisto. But you know what? He makes you care because he delivers in the ring. I mean, the guy is like, you kind of sleep on the guy because his character is not that engrossing or captivating.
He does lucha things, and that's about it.
Then he gets in the ring and he makes a good lucha thing, and you're like, damn, how can you not like the guy?
Yeah, same. I got to say that every match was top-notch. Props to the woman. I know that some people, were complaining about some of the botches, but let's compare the Hell in a Cell tables botches with what happened in this tables match, and it was pretty great. I loved the out-of-nowhere spot with the powerbomb that Alexa Bliss gave to Becky Lynch, because usually it's these obviously over set up spots, but I in no way thought that was actually going to be the conclusion. So it was nice that it was surprising, right? It got you engaged, it got you going. And then with the main event, one thing they were able to do is in PG era, at TLC pay-per-view, we were talking about it where, you can't really do a lot because of the weapon violence, but every match felt great. The TLC match was awesome from beginning to end, even leading up to Ellsworth, where there were some rumors about, hey, is he going to turn on something? And he did. And it was so great because they were just getting to the point where, okay, if they just keep doing this Ellsworth costing AJ Styles thing, that's going to get a little old. But now you have a new chapter. Now you have a new book that you can write based on what happened with Ellsworth. So I'm looking forward to us talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, overall, a really excellent show. I mean, yeah, that thing at the end, it was, Ellsworth screwing over Dean Ambrose was very much mirroring the whole AJ Lee screwing over John Cena, which only happened 2 or 3 years ago.
But there was no kissing involved.
Yes,
in this one.
we're not. I don't think we're gonna get anything like that with AJ.
Not yet.
With AJ and Ellsworth, but.
Well, AJ Lee, AJ Styles, man. We got two AJs.
Man. It's all coming around. It's going full circle. But yeah, Ellsworth, who knows how long that original character was going to last. You're going to need to put a different spin on it to keep things interesting. And this is one hell of a spin. It really... I am just amazed that Ellsworth has remained in the main event scene. He's not in the main event, but he's in the main event scene for this long. But, God bless him.
He's the guy that's most involved in pretty much all of SmackDown, and they've somehow found ways to make that very special. Now, getting to the polls, we do have something to announce, and that is that we did not have a Raw poll, because I've been scrolling thinking that we did make one.
There is definitely a Raw poll.
I looked, Ryan. It's not there. I see
it not
the last
pinned?
tweet, and then I see good morning.
Is it still pinned to the Twitter?
Oh, maybe it is pinned. Okay, so maybe if it's pinned, then I look like a moron. I do look like a moron. And this happened 2 weeks ago as well. Kind of similar, but thank you, Ryan. Thank you for letting me know.
I knew I'd put a poll up.
Good thing. You're good with polls. So what did everybody think?
All right, you know what? Just go ahead.
Just go ahead. What did everybody think of this week's Raw? The majority, it now fell. Where usually with our out of 4 rating scale, people gave it 3 out of 4. The majority said 44%, 2 out of 4 said it was meh, followed by 38% saying it was pretty good. So not bad at all. It was still, even though people weren't as satisfied, it was still an all right episode. With SmackDown, clear as day, 61% of our listeners said it was pretty good, followed by only 21% giving it a meh. So a very different contrast. For the past month or so, we've been seeing that people have been overall fairly satisfied with both shows. Now, I'm not going to say the Raw was a bad show because it honestly wasn't. But looking at the results from SmackDown, after watching it, I enjoyed every segment. Whereas with Raw, we got our things, but I still think there's an issue where you got guys like Mark Henry and Titus O'Neil, guys that aren't featured every week, but then they get involved and we're supposed to magically care about that. You have Big Show coming back, which doesn't immediately give you the best, oh my God, I'm so happy to see Big Show back impression. And then we got Jack Gallagher, which is awesome. But then there's the Cruiserweight situation happening on Raw, right? Whereas they finally have their own show. So with that being said, which did you think was the better show, or which one did you enjoy the most?
Raw's actually been winning a couple weeks for me personally, but I think SmackDown definitely won this week. But I don't think Raw was by any means bad. Some of the highlights for me were, with Enzo and that developing story over the entire episode. I'm really enjoying that feud. We got, with that, it brought more out of the arena type stuff, which Raw has been doing lately, and I hope they keep it up. It really just, it's a fresh, just a fresh change of scenery makes a huge difference. They're continuing to develop the Owens and Jericho story. So they're keeping things interesting, and it's definitely an improvement from, a month or so ago, where there was a time where Raw was just really very
bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It started out hot with the brand split, and it took a big dip, but it's been coming out of that dip for about a month now.
I agree, and one opportunity with what you're mentioning where they're doing more outside stuff. SmackDown with the 2 hours, maybe they don't have as much leeway to do stuff like that, but if in a 3-hour show, they take 40 minutes of that show in different segments and have it be outside of the arena, that's pretty great, because then it ends up being a 2-hour show And then they basically have their own version of Talking Smack. Talking Smack is that even though it's 20 minutes, it's like that extra hour almost of SmackDown Live that helps give you a context outside of the ring. And then Raw can just do that with these different segments that they're having, like last week with the bar brawl and things like that. So I'm very happy that they're doing that. And let's talk about that thing between Enzo, Lana, and Rusev. This started a couple of weeks ago. This has been an ongoing storyline for about a month. And I found myself to be quite captivated by it just because it's so different. And we were talking about this. We got a bunch of tweets on Byte That Cast where, isn't it weird how the whole thing was like, hey, Lana is a married woman. So Enzo, you're just going to put the moves on her and hopefully, get jiggy with it. And you're the babyface and she's the bad person. Okay, sure.
Yeah, well, we need to stop that because you know what? Everyone wants to crap on Roman Reigns because they try and make him like this perfect Superman guy, right? We like interesting, imperfect characters. Why do you think shows like Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad are so popular? Because those characters are interesting. They're more human. And I think this is more of a human side of Enzo, because there's a lot of guys in his situation that would do the exact same thing. You like someone like Lana.
How you doing?
You're hitting it off with them, and like even though she's married, it's like that's the type of guy Enzo is, where it's like he can't help himself because he does. Later on you see like he feels super guilty about it and he doesn't want to go through with it. But that initial part of him is he can't help himself but to keep going forward with it, and that's the type of character. It's like we now know from that whole thing like more about Enzo as a character. It makes him a more compelling character. Like, he likes, he's very forward with women, but you know what? He's got that conscience, in the back of his head. He knows he wasn't doing the right thing, and he ends up getting punished pretty severely for it, because he fell into a trap. But I liked how they developed it over several segments over the night. And just the way it was done, Cass is going to have a match with Rusev. And all of a sudden, Cass goes out there, no Rusev. They realize it's a trap and it's too late. Enzo's at the hotel already with Lana and he gets his ass whooped. And I think it's playing to both Enzo and Cass's strengths too in this feud that, Enzo's kind of the character that's doing a lot of the talking in the segments, but the actual match feud is going to be between Cass and Rusev.
No, you got to give WWE a lot of props because even though initially I was sort of thinking about that, the reason is because how many times have we complained about WWE doing something and then they don't explain it? Whereas with last week, I believe it was, Kevin Owens lost cleanly to Reigns, but then immediately afterwards, we got explanations about why that happened and how Kevin Owens was distracted. And I love that about this segment where when he was in the hotel room, as you mentioned, he started to sort of feel bad. You could see the male stereotypical part of him going like, hey, how you doing? I don't want to be soft right now. But then there was that human side of, yeah, this is wrong. I should be leaving right now. But then here's Lana persuading him. There's character development. And you're not having to wait till next week to find something out. Right now, they're telling you, okay, he feels guilty, but at the same time, there's the little devil beside of him that wants to go, just do it. And then there's Cass, who's like the angel in the other shoulder telling him, hey, man, where you at? Like, come on, it's a trap, right? But it's too late. And then you get your ass kicked. And as you mentioned, it helps every single person and Ryan. They're finally undoing the damage that was the Rusev, Ziggler, and Lana love triangle. Or trying to.
Yeah, I mean, this is a much better approach to it. Essentially, just these little mini stories, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end over one show does a lot more for a character. I would rather they do something like this, take a break next week, and then the week after do something again, than to just give us these piecemeal stories where it's like, oh, this week I'm like this, and then next week I'm going to be different, and then the week after that I'm going to be different. And you don't really get that, you don't get the transition in there. So it just feels like these broken up things like, oh, they're doing this and now they're doing this, instead of, oh, he's like this because of this, therefore he is this. I don't know. it feels just like a smoother way of telling a story when we're used to just getting one little chunk a week and gotta wait till next week to get more.
And if they go by doing it this way, it's I asked this myself Monday night after Raw, which is, when's the last time that I felt like I should bring up the 2-hour scenario? Oh, Raw should become a 2-hour show. And I haven't felt like that. Now, I would still prefer a 2-hour show, but the fact that I've been able to take that out of the conversation, and we've been talking about that for what, like two years or so, says a lot about what they're doing. I think it's just a matter of bringing everybody back that has been hurt for so long because of bad storytelling, because of crappy matches, and learn to accept that they are trying something. Now, let's hope that this is not just the road to WrestleMania, which happens every year, then afterwards it becomes a little bit stale. But even with the next topic, Seth Rollins finally talking about Triple H, which is another topic that we have been waiting. Okay, where is Triple H? Where's this mythical creature known as Papa H, where he's just celebrating what's happening with the NXT kids, but then for everything else, he's magically just disappearing. Even on Squared Circle on Reddit, people were talking about some of the gaps or loopholes that this storyline is having, because all of a sudden Rollins is caring about this and talking about gifts, even though the storyline he had with J&J Security, he was giving them gifts nonstop. So it was a little bit hypocritical, but I know you've been very critical about this Rollins, comparing it to like early babyface Reigns. Do you think they're still going down that route, or did they do something better to address that situation?
I feel like, there hasn't been really crappy comedy forced into Rollins's promos as much. I think it's been a lot better. Vince McMahon thought Sparkle Crotch was hilarious. I disagree, but so I see where they're trying to go with that. But I think they've been a lot better with Rollins. It does seem just kind of random that he just cares about Triple H again, just kind of out of nowhere. I feel like we needed something around Survivor Series to keep, he needed to drop in at least one more time between now and...
Yeah, it felt weird that he brought his name up, right?
Yeah.
Because I was not expecting that. And I was thinking to myself, why? Why do you care about now? Why do you care about that now?
Yeah, I was more expecting them to pick things up. Every once in a while, Triple H would drop in again to keep the thing going. But it seems like it's been so long now that it does feel random. I'm not even quite sure where, what's going on with Rollins going into Roadblock end of the line. Because this is the second Roadblock in 1 year. Is this the first time there's ever been 2 pay-per-views in 1 year?
I keep thinking it was like a January.
Yeah, because we're thinking like by the WWE calendar, it's kind of like a different year because you think of WrestleMania as the end of the year. But no, in 2016, this will be the second Roadblock. They really couldn't think of another name. They just had to use Roadblock and put the end of the line tag there.
End of the line.
So there's no confusion. Because we had Roadblock and Roadblock end of the line.
It feels so forced, though, when you have a guy like Kevin Owens who mocks phrases and all that, openly saying in a promo, at Roadblock end of the line. What? You could just say Roadblock, because that's the actual pay-per-view, right? That's the super event or whatever. So
no, they're going to fight at Roadblock. They're going to jump in a time machine, go back to February, and fight at Roadblock.
Oh, now it makes sense. Thank you. I needed that, man. Sometimes I get lost with WWE,
Yeah, they're going to take New Day's
comment
time
about
machine.
Rollins, though. Now, I got to ask you about Rollins. Are you feeling like he is a must-watch part of the show? Because personally, when I look at Rollins, he's one of my favorite superstars, one of my favorite wrestlers in the ring. But now it just feels like he's just another guy on the roster. I'm not feeling that special vibe that I had for him early in the year. And I don't know if it's because we haven't been exactly thrilled with what he's been saying lately, but I want to feel like that again, man. I want that Saz that I liked.
Yeah, there's no question Rollins always delivers in the ring, but the thing is, his character to me is not super interesting right now. WWE across the board has been much better with storytelling recently. But it's definitely Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho that are more stealing the show on Raw right now. And you got Ambrose and Styles kind of really carrying the show on SmackDown. So, yeah, I mean, when I'm tuning into Raw, it's more to see, what's Owens and Jericho going to do? Because they're the most interesting story and the most interesting characters right now. Whereas Rollins, I mean, the guy's amazing in the ring, but nothing about his character right now excites me, because essentially he's having the Roman Reigns story of last year of, I'm fighting the Authority, I'm going to fight Triple H at WrestleMania, and I'm kind of over that right now.
Now, here's something I'm thinking about now. Has the WWE addressed the character situation where it seems like whenever they try to develop a new babyface, people just immediately turn on that babyface, and then the logic is turn him heel, so then we cheer him. Doesn't make sense. So did they address that by just saying, let's do better storytelling as a whole, even if the character itself is not as well defined, but the overarching thing, like, you have with the woman, and then Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss on SmackDown doing back-to-back stuff. You have James Ellsworth sort of, instead of being a clear heel and babyface on SmackDown with Dean and, I was going to say Dean and Ambrose, with Dean and AJ, you have Ellsworth as sort of a gateway to tell the story. And then with Raw, you have Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. You have like this whole lump of people having a storyline happening. But then the individual characters, when you really think about it, haven't changed all that much. So have they done that where they just care more about the story and sort of the character is whatever people think about them?
I think that's a good analysis, and it does make sense. Yes, there's still a lot of clear baby faces and heels, but things like, Owens and Jericho, they're both technically still heel right now, but everyone's very interested in the story. So
and everybody's loving
so
them.
It might be this situation now where storytelling is actually taking priority over face heel. And I think that's good. I really think that is what people want. People just want to be told good stories, and they want to see them settled in the ring. That's all we're asking for. If you tell us an interesting story, we're going to watch it. We're going to get interested in it. We're going to get engrossed in it. That's all we want.
Now, sort of as a gateway to the reason why I bring this up, now that you go to Roman Reigns, who's the U.S. champion, he pinned Kevin Owens last week. But then when you really think about the U.S. title, it still doesn't feel like it's part of the main show. Now, yeah, we got the match between Jericho and Reigns, which was a very good match, but it didn't feel like the U.S. title added anything to it, right? As opposed to when John Cena had the title. It just felt like here's this triangle between Kevin Owens, Jericho, and Reigns is that guy to help further that storyline. Do you think that that's something that they're doing that's good? When it's leading to some decent matches on Raw, it's leading to some good matches with Jericho. But then the U.S. title, where does it really matter here?
Yeah, the thing is, the U.S. title really feels like an afterthought, because even though they had a title defense on Raw this week, it just doesn't seem like it's that important, especially when Reigns is fighting for the Universal Championship. When John Cena had it, obviously he was defending it every single week, and it was about the U.S. title. Nothing Reigns is doing right now is about the U.S. title. And even though it's on a guy who is considered important, it doesn't seem like he cares about the title that much. Like, it doesn't seem like it's important to him. Therefore, it just doesn't seem important. It's easy to actually forget that Roman Reigns is U.S. champion sometimes because it just doesn't feel like we have one.
And it's no knock against Reigns, but you look at... let's compare The Miz, right? The Miz with the IC title has done awesome things on SmackDown, and it felt like the storyline there is I'm the Intercontinental Champion, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep that title. Where with Reigns, it feels like he is the U.S. Champion, and he's doing things, and he just so happens to put the title on the line. So as a wrestler or as a superstar, shouldn't the priority be, I want to become champion, so then it's about defending it, and then it's about being proud of it, and then it's like that comes first and everything else second? I'm not feeling that. So I'm not sure what the problem or the solution, I should say, is to this situation, but I really do think that they're doing more harm than good to have, Roman Reigns, who they clearly wanted to be the main champion, at multiple occasions, maybe they gave him the U.S. title so he has a championship, but at what cost? Because it seems like if Jericho actually won the U.S. title on Raw, what would change? I feel like nothing would change because there's no prestige. There's no sense of, man, remember Reigns with this title? He had this memorable match, and when he felt threatened by it, with John Cena as the latest example, which is still the only real good example, you could say, man, remember when Sami Zayn battled for the title? Remember when Kevin Owens showed up and did his thing? There are moments that you can go back to the WWE Network for $9.99. Although, by the way, if anybody hasn't subscribed, this is in no ways a cheap plug. You can get the network with Crunchyroll for like $20 for 3 months if you haven't subscribed ever, which I'm super upset by because I wanted to subscribe to watch Dragon Ball Super, but I'll figure out a workaround. They still have
the English dub of Dragon Ball yet. I'm waiting on that.
It's going to happen soon. Adult Swim. I just read about that before the show started, that they are working on that. So I'm super excited about that because I want to hear the voices, that I listened to growing up. But yeah, Roman Reigns, make the title matter more. Defend the title at Roadblock. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that we have a champion defend a title twice or wrestle twice in one show. So why, all against one,
because
the Roman
it's not
Empire.
Night of Champions, so he doesn't have to.
Damn it. Damn you and your logic, man. It makes too much sense.
They could have at least done, they probably don't want to do it, but they could have done like title v title, so whoever walks out gets both. I don't know, at least it would make it seem like he cares about the US title. And like you said, it's nothing against Roman Reigns, it's just the positioning, the circumstance that they happen to be in where Reigns is feuding for the Universal title. I don't understand why they even gave him the US title. They probably could have figured out some screwy way to just have Rusev keep it, and it would have been a lot better. Then you got Big Cass going against Rusev for the title, and all of a sudden that seems like a much bigger deal.
Agree completely. So, we'll see. Maybe that's a possibility around Rumble time or something. Now, the last thing I want to get to here with Raw is Sasha Banks versus Charlotte Flair. And obviously, we got to talk about the apology segment with the Nature Boy Ric Flair. That was pretty great. We're now getting at Roadblock, end of the line. We're going to get an Ironman match. As I mentioned at the top of the show, not the first time we get this with Sasha. That was an awesome match that she had with Bayley. Now, that being said, I thought this was such a weird way to do it where we just got the announcement and it felt like with every other match, there was at least something happening, but it felt like when the movie ended, you got the closing credit cutscene or something, and then it was this. But I didn't feel like there's any reasoning to. Now, I'm not doubting that it's going to be a good match, but should they take a break? Should they do something else?
This is like Lord of the Rings. This is like Return of the King from Lord of the Rings, where it just ended like 6 times before it actually ended. But you know what? Iron Man, they literally cannot do anything else after Iron Man. Iron Man is generally the end-all be-all of a feud. Hell in a Cell...
They could do an Inferno match.
You think Hell in a Cell is the end of it, but Iron Man almost always ends a feud. So I think this is actually going to be it. Like the Charlotte bringing in Ric Flair, I thought was as people hate Charlotte, so they don't need to have more reasons. But if you want more reasons, this is a damn good way to do it. And also just address the fact that Ric Flair came out and congratulated Sasha the last time. So this is really well done. They didn't overplay it like the first time that that Charlotte scolded at Ric Flair and he cried or whatever. They kept this one a lot shorter and sweeter. And just seeing the replay of the previous one to now, you can just see how much better Charlotte's gotten on the microphone. She's less, she's broken up that horrible cadence a little bit that she has in the way that she speaks. It's not as... There's
still some of it, but it's much better. Way better.
It has gotten a lot better. And yeah, this was just a great way to do it. Now, Iron Man, so they're doing 30 minutes, not an hour, which I think is good. I think in hours, I don't even know if anyone had, in today's world, it's not that I don't think that they could go an hour. It's just that in today's instant gratification, small, low attention span world, 30 minutes is plenty. Yeah, and I guess we're going to have just Charlotte win again because they're not going to break her pay-per-view streak at Roadblock or whatever. That's really the only downside is we basically know going in, Charlotte's probably going to win.
Yeah, regardless of who wins, I'm going to enjoy the match. But then going to the Ric Flair thing, props to them once again for doing a little details. Like, you don't have Dana Brooke involved in any way when they're outside. It's just father and daughter. And then the emotion there where you have Ric Flair crying. You can tell, Charlotte, as his legitimate daughter, she's trying to hold back any kind of emotion of you're watching your dad cry, right? Like, real or not, he is actually tearing up. And then you're slapping your father. And then Sasha Banks comes out, and then she gets no offense in. Charlotte looks like the boss, which we've been talking about. Like, she's the actual boss. And then going boo-hoo on her father. So great. Like, she is the only, dare I say, or I'll ask you, Ron, is she the only heel Raw has right now? Think about it. Is she the only actual character that is meant to be booed and is booed? Clearly. Like, there's no 50-50 thing happening here.
Kind of there.
Dude, I love me some Rusev,
I love Rusev, too.
He's awesome. I want to, like, if he were at WrestleMania weekend and we could go to Dave & Buster's with him, I would totally go there, man.
So random.
And play some ice hockey.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing is Rusev is a guy who, when I saw him originally in NXT, when he wore his, like, leather skirt and broke boards with people's names on it, I was, like, not hyped at all about Rusev. And when they called him up, I was like, really? Rusev? But he's coming to his own as just a totally different thing and is pretty awesome. Yeah, I don't know. But she's probably the biggest heel on the Raw roster, without question, because people actually like Owens and Jericho. Maybe Roman Reigns is the only other one.
Maybe. But it's a good problem to have. And whatever she's doing, they got to emulate that on the male side because there is nobody there. Honestly, there really isn't anybody there. Maybe that's why
they're ending Raw with. That's the second week in a row they've ended Raw with the women's segment.
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't even.
It felt right.
It's no longer a thing. Yeah, it's no longer a thing where you think about like this is what they're ending it with. It just feels like a normal part of the show. So for any hate that we can give him,
people probably like not even kidding. Like people probably legitimately care more about the Raw Women's Championship than the WWE Universal title.
I'm sitting here, and I can't exactly disagree. Despite the fact that I don't agree with the title switching so much, you're pretty much right.
I think people are more into this feud than they are Owens and Reigns.
Yeah, everybody listening, which one do you care about more? The championship. Let's remove ourselves from necessarily the champions or the contenders. Which situation that is currently happening do you care about the most? Byte That Cast, send us a tweet, either Raw Women's Championship or the WWE Universal Championship. And end of the year. So what's happening? Right now, we record the podcast every Wednesday, as we mentioned. Keith is under the weather. I'm kind of dying, but I'm here right now. And last week, we were supposed to record our end-of-year podcast special. So what is this? What is this infamous thing that we've been talking about for a while? So for the last week of December, instead of getting one podcast episode, you're technically going to get 3. So you're going to get it, I believe it's going to be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of the last week of December. And we have over 15 different categories for our end of the year award. So in previous years, we just do one podcast where we break down the top 3 picks, number 1, and then we sort of talk about number 1. So rather than do that, we're actually just going to have an on-air conversation about the entire debate. So we have categories with 5 entries, 8 entries, 10 entries, and we're just going to talk about all that. So we don't know how long this is going to last time-wise, but it's going to be over 3 to 4 hours of podcast content in 1 week, and it's going to be available on YouTube as well as the RSS feed. Now, for the patrons, we're going to do our best to get some early access stuff for that. We can't guarantee that because, once again, we've never done this.
It's going to be crazy.
If you guys like it, it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
We're still afraid of it, right? Because it's so much to talk about.
But essentially, to kind of elaborate, before we would do the year-end awards of previous years, we would all kind of discuss and debate each one and pick a winner. So essentially, instead of like just giving you the exact results, we're gonna basically record that whole conversation that happens where we're debating on who's actually the winner. So it's gonna be a very interesting dynamic. So it's gonna be a ton of content over that holiday week. So just after Christmas. So if you're driving to your family's place or whatever, you'll have plenty of content to listen to, because generally around this time of year, there's a lot of podcasts and stuff don't really have much content because of the holidays. Well, we're gonna have tons to make up for that, so you won't be without content to listen to during the holiday week.
Yeah, so I hope you guys like it, guys and gals. And if you do enjoy it, let us know when that happens, so we maybe make that the new yearly tradition here at Byte That. Now, there is this box, Ryan, that we've been talking about for about a month that's got about 4 wrestling DVDs. It's got a Brie Bella Funko Pop, a Nakamura-inspired T-shirt.
The head of Triple H. The head of Triple H.
Yes, I'm gonna miss saying this so much. Oh man, I love saying you can get Triple H's head from a toy action figure. I'm holding it right now. You can get it. So Ryan, I think I need, instead of doing fancy MP3s post-production thing, can I get the patented Rapadoo? Because, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 2016 BT Crate giveaway is... Do one more Rapadoo, just for the hell of it. The winner is Britain Hitchmo. I'm hoping I said your name properly. And the person is from Canada, so thank you very much.
Congratulations.
To Britain or Britain. You got any comments, Ryan? You want to congratulate more?
Well, congratulations. Thank you for participating in our giveaway. There was a lot of cool ways to enter, so we appreciate you supporting us. I think that Brapadoo, one of our friends, has a dog over. I think it made the dog bark when I was doing that. I think he could hear me doing that, because both times I did it, he barked. But yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Right after the show, try it one more time and then see what happens there. But yeah, we'll announce the winner on Twitter as well. Make sure to contact us. You have about 48 hours to give us your information. Otherwise, per contest tradition or giveaway tradition, we will move on to another person there. But thank you very much for everybody that entered. We got 800 different entries, so different opportunities, Twitch follows. And remember, last week we mentioned that we broke the $50 tier on our Patreon. So that means that we reached our first goal, which is to host a 12-hour wrestling video game marathon. Now, we're going to be doing that. It's probably not going to be December. We're thinking maybe January, because it's the holiday season. We got our families to take care of. We got a bunch of stuff happening. So it's going to be difficult right now. But give us a couple weeks. We'll give you more information right here on the podcast. Twitch.tv/Byte That is the place that you want to make sure you follow. But we'll keep everybody posted, right?
Yep. And it's on the road to the next goal. You know, we're going to be the next goal, I believe, will have that secondary audio feed with all of the extra stuff, as well as we'll be starting Q&A exclusive videos. So patrons will be able to ask us questions, and then we will have a both audio and video version of a straight up extra mailbag where we're answering some of your questions. So that'll be extra content for both, and everyone gets to listen to it, patron or not. And that'll be on audio and video. And
yeah, so the benefit of that is so you can give out lengthier questions. There are some questions that we don't get to on the podcast simply because we know that they're going to take a long time, right? So because it's patron exclusive regarding the questions, we can make sure we structure that in a way that everybody enjoys it, because as Ryan mentioned, we're not going to limit that. We can get more info at patreon.com/Byte That.
And speaking of patrons, this week we would like to thank some of our beloved patrons, including Bo Segrist and Tony Meyer. So thank you guys so much for the support.
If you guys want some more stuff, quickly just go to YouTube. We got a video where we play Smackdown 2 for the PS1. And this weekend we got a new one about bad WWE items. And stay tuned. If you're on YouTube, there may be a YouTube channel update coming very soon about the future of BT in 2017. For everybody else, it's back to the usual. We're having a good time. We're having fun, Michael. Speaking of having fun, John Cena's going to be having a little bit of fun before we get to SmackDown. Just a quick break, just a quick comment about John Cena becoming the host of Saturday Night Live on this next weekend. This is big because not everybody gets to be host of Saturday Night Live. And John Cena, I said it, I believe, last week, 2017, I'm calling it again. It's going to be the last year that we see John Cena involved in WWE before he is the next The Rock in Hollywood.
Well, that's bold. I disagree. I think don't get me wrong. I think he has a big future in movies and all of that. But I mean, even The Rock, it took quite a while before he really hit it. You know, Scorpion King didn't really launch his career immediately. He had to kind of trudge through a series of movies before he really took off.
He had a tiny ding-a-ling.
Yeah, all right. I do remember that with the hurricane. But yeah, Cena on just to give some context for God's sakes. Cena on SNL, I'm super looking forward to this. He's only the third wrestler to ever host. So Hogan, The Rock have both hosted, and now John Cena, who's like finally, even though he's been, the guy for over a decade, he's really starting to just hit mainstream. And this is awesome. I feel like Cena, I'm really looking forward to watching this because I feel like he's going to knock it out of the park. And this is like his best opportunity to get mainstream appeal to other, this is a very broad audience that watches this show. A lot of people think SNL is like on the downtrend, but I feel like that's always happening. Everyone thinks every era is the worst
I've been hearing that for like 10 years.
Yeah. And they survive. They carry on. So I'm sure it'll be fine. As long as he's got like one or two classic skits in there that will kind of go viral on the internet, that'll be huge for him. Definitely a huge opportunity for John Cena, and I'm super looking forward to watching it.
Yes, we're probably just going to have a quick update next week thinking, was that good? Was it awesome? Well, we'll have to, as always, wait to find out.
Unless the crowd will the crowd do a "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chant? Will they want
Poor
him?
Guy.
John Cena finally gets to be in front of an audience that isn't a wrestling crowd. I wonder how that'll go over.
I think he's going to thrive. And that's what I'm saying, 2017. I think he's going to get a taste of what it's like to be in a
he's already getting that
entertainment
taste.
crowd.
And SNL's a lot like WWE in that it's live performances where they do get to practice during, the week up to it, but when you're live, he's used to acting on live TV. So this is really like his bread and butter.
Yeah, hopefully he does knock it out of the park and get some more eyeballs into the WWE universe. Now, we switch back to old-fashioned wrestling. Poor AJ Styles, man, in TLC. For all the awesome spots, 450 through table, so many good things. People just talk about the man's ass cheek. That is the whole thing.
That was some of the most
we got
fun
close.
I've had on Twitter, though, during a pay-per-view.
True.
People had the jokes, man.
I remember it was Keith between the three of us that was pointing that out first. And then I see that and I'm going like, oh, no. Oh, wait, that hole is getting bigger. And it's getting closer to another hole. Oh my! Please don't. Please don't.
The ass that runs
match,
the class.
I'm just thinking about that.
The cheek that reached the peak. The butt that runs the hut. You can keep going, man, all day.
So many of them were good. And that wasn't the only bad thing that happened. Apparently, he does have an actual injury. So he didn't come out on SmackDown just for character's sake, being injured. It seems to be a minor injury, so this is not something that's going to have a Finn Balor of effect where they have to strip him off the championship. But it's gonna keep him out maybe for like a couple of weeks. I'm not sure. Regardless, I think this is a blessing because it gives you more time on the story side of things, and you're not forcing him to have a match. And then you have James Ellsworth involved now with Dean Ambrose and all that. So I think that this is a really good time so he can heal up and you can further a little bit more storyline, right?
Yeah. I mean, this gives them an opportunity to do a number of things. So what do we have? I believe Ambrose and Ellsworth facing each other next week, right?
I believe that is the case.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't know how long AJ's out, but luckily Royal Rumble is still a ways away, and that's the next SmackDown pay-per-view because that will be a dual brand. They have a lot of time, man. Is AJ and Ambrose gonna go all the way out to Royal Rumble at this point? It probably would.
I think they could do it.
Yeah. I mean, this is one hell of a long feud, but they've kept it interesting. Yeah, Ellsworth on Talking Smack, he kind of stole my thunder on my YouTube review by basically I mean, who would have Talking Smack, man? Who would have thought they'd just give you the next story piece right away?
Right there.
So now we have Ellsworth as this sort of delusional babyface, even though Ambrose heavily helped Ellsworth win every single one of his matches against AJ Styles. He's now bought into his own hype, which, believe it or not, Ellsworth apparently has hype that he can beat AJ Styles. So it made sense that he interfered, not because he's doing some weird betrayal and siding with AJ, but because he thinks he can beat AJ. He has a better chance to beat AJ than Dean Ambrose. And, it's an actual justification that makes sense. And it's not just him turning heel just to be controversial. And it's pretty interesting. And we've seen when Ambrose was pissed at Seth Rollins, what he will do. So I fear for the safety of James Ellsworth.
Yeah, props to them, because this is how you build up more character with Ambrose without him being overly babyface, right? You have a reason to be upset. James Ellsworth has a legitimate reason to think why he can beat AJ, even though it's ridiculous. He's beaten the man 3 times. So who can argue with that logic in the world of wrestling, right? So you have that. So now that AJ is injured, you have the perfect storyline where the main storyline on SmackDown is now James Ellsworth versus Dean Ambrose.
Yep.
Right?
That is legitimately the main story on SmackDown. If you had told me that this summer, I would have laughed in your face and said that would never happen. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And I think we're going to get some good matches out of this. Now, I'm wondering if this is going to be the new Spirit Squad. Remember, the Spirit Squad, when they ended, they actually ended the stable. So, like, DX literally shipped them back to OVW in a crate.
Yes.
We just gave one now. So is this a thing now where maybe they start the James Ellsworth farewell tour, where after this it's like, hey, heads up, you're not actually that good. You're done. Like, this was your storyline. And they actually take him out of SmackDown. Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, he just signed a contract, didn't he? For, I don't know how long, probably
regardless
a year.
Of. Just because you sign a contract doesn't mean you can go away for a while and then maybe he's drafted to Raw or something. I'm just saying, like, it would not be a bad idea where if you want to actually deliver the message where this guy has been a thorn on AJ's side for a while, and now with Ambrose, unless you actually take him out for at least 2 to 3 months, how do you deliver the message where, yeah, Dean Ambrose took care of him, he is there next week? That just doesn't seem to make sense.
Isn't that becoming his gimmick? That no matter how much he gets beat up, he just comes back next week?
Damn it. Damn, you're right.
The likely scenario,
I mean,
there's a good chance that Ambrose beats the crap out of him and he's gone for a couple weeks. After this feud, he's probably going to move way down the card. And that's fine. I mean, he's a guy who should be just happy to be there. And there's definitely some things you can do with him on the lower card. He could just become a jobber again for SmackDown, and that's fine. He's already done so much more than a lot of people in his position have ever gotten to do. And I'd like to see him stick around at this point and just have a new story. He can become the ultra underdog and, go from there. And that's a fine position to be in.
As my closing crazy idea here, what I would love is that, okay, next week we get Ambrose versus Ellsworth. Afterwards, he's taken out. He doesn't show up until the Rumble between the entries of Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. And I want in the ring Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, and James Ellsworth. I want that. Give me that. That is my Rumble moment, and I'm going to be a happy camper. I'm a very easy person to satisfy. Then you give me
some
a rack of ribs and sweet potato pie.
Demands for a Rumble moment.
I'm a weird, strange man, Ryan. You should know that by now. Speaking of weird and strange, we may be dealing with a breakup on SmackDown Live because even though this didn't happen on SmackDown, it happened on Talking Smack, Slater and Rhyno lost the titles easily, very easily to the new Wyatt family, which, by the way, they're going to have the Freebird rule now. I don't know if you read this, but officially, Luke Harper is now also a tag team champion. So any combination, much like the New Day, we have the New Day and the new Wyatt family, both with Freebird rules.
Strategically, if wrestling was real, everybody would do this rule. Because the fact that you can rotate somebody out for a match is a huge, huge advantage. But they don't really point that out enough. The amount that WWE wrestlers have matches, being able to have one person rest every third match is insane. So it's kind of cool that we're seeing this develop more. And, in the WWE rules, like the Freebird rule probably isn't, they don't make it out to be the huge strategic advantage they actually could make it out to be, but maybe it would just seem unfair if they emphasized it so much. But it is cool. It lets them make things interesting. We're not quite sure about what's really going on. Bray Wyatt seems to trust Randy Orton, but Luke Harper's a little more skeptical. So they'll be able to play off of that with Orton Orton and Harper in matches together and things like that. So I really like that they're doing this rule with them. And this new Wyatt family is becoming more of a thing than I ever thought it was going to be.
Now, I'm looking forward to seeing what the opposite of the New Day ends up being with them, where the New Day, they all support each other, but as you mentioned, Luke Harper's a little bit skeptical, so maybe it's a thing of who gets to defend, because then the third person's going to feel left out. So maybe that's something that goes on.
It's crazy that really just putting Bray Wyatt right next to Randy Orton helps Bray Wyatt's credibility so much. Like, Bray Wyatt has never felt more credible than he has now, actually.
I'm very happy about that. I'm just wondering how long this is going to go about, but I'm not even going to... I shouldn't worry about that. I'm just going to enjoy that right now.
It's going a lot better than any of us thought it would.
Definitely. Now, with Slater and Rhyno commented on Talking Smack that he felt like he was the only person out there, and then he sort of stormed off. Slater was a little bit bummed out on Talking Smack. So there is this possibility of them breaking up. I mentioned before, I think it's time to maybe do that, because if they're not going to do anything else and we're just going to live on the first couple of weeks that we got this storyline and we got this new character out of Slater, maybe we can deal with a heel Rhyno on SmackDown. And we can use a heel Rhyno on SmackDown. He's a great heel. He's an awesome guy. And then maybe he can do something to where Heath Slater steps up and maybe goes into IC title contention. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I really feel like there wasn't much left to the Slater and Rhyno story. They did tell a very good story. They were this underdog team. They won the tag titles. But then, it kind of seemed like after they won the titles, like, what's left for them to really do? So the fact that they're going to do this breakup storyline, I would like to see this move them into a singles feud. Like, I love that this has given Slater credibility. And I wouldn't like Slater to just fall back into irrelevance again and just become a jobber again. I think we're all ready to see Slater keep being relevant, to stay relevant. He's very entertaining. Rhyno is a great asset to have on the show. So I want to see them both stick around as singles competitors. And there's room for Slater in the IC title scene eventually. I think he's still a little ways away from that, because the IC title is, it does feel like, you got guys who have been established single stars for a very long time in that scene. And, he's not quite there yet, even though he hasn't been a credible superstar for long enough yet for that.
But that's where they should go, because there's no other story. Yeah. Slater's been limited, from the Nexus to the Core to his teaming with Justin Gabriel, sort of outside of some of that stuff, to Slater Gator. That's been his entire WWE career. So at some point they got to take that risk, because when they did the first time, it was against the Legends, where he was losing every week. And even then, he got that over. Even then, he did an awesome job. So they got to do something like that, where The Miz doesn't take the man seriously. And that alone would be a good WrestleMania match. Imagine we're there live at WrestleMania, and then Heath Slater becomes the IC champion. That's a pretty good feel-good moment.
First Zack Ryder, then Heath Slater. It's crazy.
That's the thing every year, except I see much better things for Heath Slater.
So James Ellsworth wins it in 2018 is what you're saying?
No, WWE World Champion 2018, Ellsworth.
Could be
He's
sooner.
buff up. He's going to beef up.
Could be sooner.
Could be next week. Who applies logic? That they've given him everything. Even if he ended his WWE career now, who in the hell can complain about the career that James Ellsworth has had in 2016? We have a breakout star of the year, I believe, category, and he's definitely up there for the awards. Now, just a quick little comment, because this is not part of the agenda. Alexa Bliss, I want your reaction to after TLC, she was on Talking Smack, clearly trying to be in character, but she was so captivated, so emotional that she broke out crying, but then right after she was able to take back into the character. Some people were not happy that, she is supposed to be the witch and the other word on SmackDown, but here she was being superhuman being and then going back. Personally, I thought it was good because she's a human being.
Yeah.
Even the worst human being is allowed to cry at some time.
No, it's true. It doesn't bother me. I like to see Talking Smack has always it stayed mostly kayfabe, but it does walk that line from time to time where you kind of get a glimpse of reality. And I appreciate that. And I thought it was completely fine. I mean, even though Alexa Bliss has this heel character, she doesn't really cheat a lot, right? As far as we've seen, the match she lost, she had her foot on the ropes, right? Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like they've always kind of played her as pretty, she's got a nasty personality, but she plays it kind of by the book. So I think it's okay for, Renee and Brian to be congratulating her and being proud of her and all of that. And for her to show emotion. I mean, even her character, it's very important to her and she's worked hard for it. So I don't think it strays too far away from that. And yeah, I mean, it's Talking Smack. It's not like it's happening on the main show, so it's fine.
Now, going completely out of Raw and SmackDown Live, this was announced just before we hit the record button. Not going to get too much into politics because that's not what the question after the announcement is going to be. But Donald Trump, president-elect, did officially announce that Linda McMahon was
she's going to be head
not nominated,
of the,
but selected.
Yeah. She's going to be head of the Small Business Administration. So neither of us are going to pretend like we know exactly what goes on there. We know it has to do with we know it has to do with small businesses. That's all we know about what they.
Because it literally has that in the title.
Yes, and that's the only reason we know. But I think the reason, we don't get into politics here. It's just worth noting that a McMahon is now in a presidential cabinet. JBL has his cabinet. Well, Linda McMahon is in a legitimate presidential cabinet. And, hey, it's just one step closer to Vince McMahon becoming president, right?
I would be so afraid of that. But it does beg the question, does this put WWE more in the radar? Because even when Linda McMahon was involved in some running of the politics, we got so many videos of, hey, she was part of this when the woman used to be beat down and everything.
That, I'm sure, I haven't turned on the news yet, but I guarantee you a lot of those 24-hour news channels are probably having a field day with, he appointed her. Well, let's look at Trish Stratus barking like a dog. She was in charge when this happened. So they have all the dirt that they could ever want on Linda McMahon by just going on the WWE network, turning it to the late 90s and early 2000s and having a field day.
So that's why I'm so worried, though, because we're enjoying everything right now. But is the WWE at some point going to go like, oh, man, she is involved? This is the White House.
Oh, so are you? Well, she's not associated with the company in any way.
That doesn't matter. Yeah. That doesn't matter. So you think honestly,
we're going to go back to when she was running for Senate? When she was running for Senate and WWE was way too PG?
I have a fear that may happen. I mean, obviously, these are conversations that were happening before. But, okay, this is a publicly traded company. So what Vince McMahon and Linda McMahon are actually married to each other. So by having one person being in charge of this and this person being involved over there, they're the same, not the same people, but they're the same family, right?
Here's the thing that's different than when she was running for Senate. See, there's a difference between running for office and holding office. And this is obviously a much smaller position. It's not like she's like Secretary of State or something like that.
I mean, it's Small Business Administration. It says it in the title.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
small.
But a lot of these positions are just like appointed to their buddies or whatever. They're like, I'm not going to pretend like I know how important this position is, but it's not like one of the huge positions. You know what I mean? And so what I'm trying to say is, they were doing this whole PG thing because she was running for office. She is just being appointed of this job. She already has the job. So they don't really, like, nobody's going to, unless something in the Small Business Administration just blows up and goes to hell, nobody's ever going to really care about, like, what's actually going on over there. So,
But Ryan, tying it to wrestling, there is a rumor that Vince McMahon wants to get more indies involved in the network. So indies could be considered small businesses. So if Vince McMahon kills all these independent companies in some sort of way,
I don't think she controls anything to do with indie wrestling and that administration.
She's got to think about PWG, man. Yeah. She's got to think about Evolve, even though, well, they have a partnership with WWE. See, like, I don't know how this is going to affect. I'm just going to throw this out there for everybody listening. If you didn't know, I'm assuming everybody found out at some point there. But this is just something to be on the lookout for, because you never know what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, I don't think it's going. I personally do not think it's going to affect WWE in any way, because it's a lot different than running for office. So we should be fine, folks. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I don't think they're going to get way too PR conscious or whatever.
We just worry about Puerto Rico PR, but Shining Stars, they're not even on Raw anymore. So crisis averted.
Superstars is gone, so they're kind of screwed.
It's gone. They got nothing now, man. Nothing at all. But we do have your questions, though. Every week after Raw, SmackDown Live, pay-per-view talk, you can send us questions, Byte That Cast on Twitter. Use the hashtag AskBT or on email. Send us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. Now, Ryan, you know the deal. When Keith isn't here, you become an honorary Canadian for everybody. And you got to do the Keith impersonation.
Am I off to a good start? I'm sorry.
Maybe. It just depends on how you read the questions. Remember, the pauses are very important.
All right. So our first question comes from Sushant. And he asks, suppose WWE gave you a 2-year contract for WWE and you can be a superstar. What would be your gimmick / would you be face or heel?
Now, for me, I would like to be a face, because if I want people to hate me, I can't be a heel because they'll like me. So I want to be the biggest baby face of all time. I want to be a baby face Simon Dean. Like Simon Dean's thing was everybody's fat. You got to get in shape.
You love Simon Dean.
Yeah, I love Simon Dean, man. I want to be DDP. I want to be DDP Yoga, Diamond Dallas Page, but in WWE. Like, I want to legitimately just help people. I want to take somebody from the front of the audience and have them do like, diamond cutters and down dogs. And then somebody's going to accidentally break their back. And then Iron Sheik's going to make them humble. And that's going to be my heel turn. But
it's pretty controversial. Taking people in the audience and making them do down dogs.
That is a yoga position. For anybody that doesn't know, that is just a yoga position. Nothing else for you sick-minded individuals. You know who you are. Me. What about you, Ryan?
I've probably mentioned this one before, but I would be... first of all, I think this character would be a babyface, but I would just be sort of this... super conspiracy theorist person, where I would be skeptical of like all these things that happen in WWE, like, who knows to play the entrance music, and how does he always know how to time it? And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I just don't understand the rules of kayfabe, so I'm just skeptical of everything that's going on. I'm just like,
so it's like this week, a good example could be, how did Cass call Enzo and there was magically a cameraman the moment he called him?
Yes, things like that, which I don't know how you could make it work without just taking everybody out of the show, but it would be pretty hilarious. I'd be like, how does John Cena get everyone to throw that clothesline? I don't understand. Why don't they just not
you actually go to college and try to major in mathology, because I don't know which math type that would be, to figure out, like, okay, the equation for clothesline versus ducking leading to the backdrop equals 5.
It'd be some sort of physics thing, I would imagine.
There you go.
Yeah, so that would be my gimmick. So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Cynical Justin, and he asks, what gimmick ruined a superstar for you? After the whole Natalya fart thing, I can never see her the same again.
That may be in the top 5. Because I cannot see Natalya differently after that, honestly. I'm seeing her differently now, but that fart thing, for those that don't know, like, she actually had a farting gimmick where she'd be backstage, she would fart, somebody would smell it, and she would run away. Woman in wrestling in WWE just a couple of years ago, folks.
Yeah, it was not happening. That long ago.
That was like 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah. Now, somebody else, I don't know why, like, I'm thinking Stevie Richards, like the Stevie Richards. I'm being dead serious. I'm not talking about Benoit here. I think that Stevie Richards always had more potential, but because he had right to censor and they were treated as a joke, and then he had Stevie Night Heat, and he was like the GM of Sunday Night Heat and all that, nobody took him seriously. And here was a solid wrestler who could be funny, who could be angry, he could be the leader of a faction, but because he got these two different storylines happening, nobody could take him seriously. He was seen as the Sunday Night Heat guy and the guy that lost to everybody.
It's really hard to think of a gimmick that just really ruined somebody. Like,
I think mostly when it's like a joke gimmick, you look at a Brodus Clay.
Yeah, Brodus Clay.
I think that could be another example.
Yeah, he's one where it was very hard to take him seriously after that, but he never really got a chance to try something else after that. So, yeah, maybe like Paul Burchill as the pirate, you know?
Never reached that treasure.
Yeah. Even like, it was hard to, like, a guy like Kevin Thorne, like, you were still kind of hung up on Mordecai beforehand.
I think most guys that showed up in ECW, with the exception of CM Punk and all that, they were seen as inferior. You know, you look at a guy like Sabu, for example, they brought him in, they limited him. So it's not even that he was stuck with a bad gimmick, but he was stuck with this ECW gimmick in WWE, and everybody knew it just wasn't going to happen. Like, how do you do Sabu in WWE? You don't, is the answer to that. So I think more so than bad gimmicks, it's also a really good gimmick in a really bad era. Like, you can't have a guy like Raven. Raven used to come down with, you know, the shopping cart with weapons. If that happened nowadays, that would seem dull.
Yeah.
Because you can get half of the stuff
even,
you used to do
like
there.
Some like Tensai kind of ruined Albert, and then he became Sweet
really
Tea. Like, yeah. Good thing I'm glad he's doing good, you know, training down at the Performance Center, because his last two gimmicks were horrible.
There's a lot more we can get to, so maybe you save that for like a future, like gimmicks, not worse gimmicks, but gimmicks that ruined a wrestler. So really, really good question there.
Yes, thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Going for the Vin, and they ask, if Byte That cast turned into the New Day, who would each of you be and why?
So per tradition, whenever we do this, we usually nominate each other, not ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing as Keith isn't here, we got to talk about Keith first.
I think...
Would Keith be Big E?
Big E? I feel like you would be Big E. It seems like...
I can't gyrate that well.
It seems like
but...
you... I was going to say, it seems like you would be most likely to gyrate.
I can try.
Yeah.
Dressed as AJ Lee. No. Why am I saying
Keith,
that on this platform?
I feel like Keith would be Kofi. Because, I don't know.
So you would be holding the trombone?
I guess I'd be holding the trombone. I guess I'm Xavier Woods just by default. But I would give Kofi to Keith because out of them, I feel like Kofi's most likely to be an asshole. Like the way when he in the promos, you know, he was the one who would say we would fight your children, and that to me is why it would be Keith.
Okay. I would still kind of maybe go with I would go with you as Kofi actually. Keith is Big E, and then maybe me Xavier. But who do you see yourself as? Like, say we haven't chosen anybody. Who do you think you are?
Maybe Big E, because you know what? I'd probably gyrate too, not gonna lie. All right, I guess I would go with Big E as myself. I like Xavier Woods. I wish I was like Xavier Woods, but I don't think I am.
I want to see you gyrate at WrestleMania. If I'm dressing up as AJ Lee, which, by the way, people, just a quick update, the voting seems to be unanimous. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, listen to last week's podcast, where most of you want me to dress up as AJ Lee for NXT TakeOver during WrestleMania weekend.
It's going to happen, folks. He's going to do it right. So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Liam Vincent. Who do you think will go into the Hall of Fame celebrity wing this year? For me, it has to be Lemmy from Motorhead, the best entrance music. I think that is an excellent pick. There's a few celebrities that could definitely go in. Lemmy, I think, I agree with you. Another one could be Cyndi Lauper. She's another one who has...
Yeah, a lot of people talked about that.
She's had a lot of influence in the early WrestleMania times in WWE. Do you got any other names?
Kevin Federline.
Kevin Federline. I'd fight for that. I would definitely fight for that.
Lemmy really is the best answer, though. I mean, Triple H's music, Evolution, live performances on multiple occasions.
He definitely provided pay-per-view music as well. A couple occasions.
Just before he passed away, he was Ace of Spades was used for NXT TakeOver. So here's somebody that is not even just a celebrity. I wouldn't even put him in the celebrity wing. I would put him in the WWE wing. Like, he is somebody that is part of wrestling. When you think of Triple H, Motorhead in some form has to be in there, right? At least it is for me. So the idea of listening to Triple H talking about Lemmy, maybe some backstage stories, it seems like it's the best option for that.
Absolutely. So totally agree with you. If you guys have some other ideas, let us know. Send us a tweet at Byte That Cast or leave a comment on YouTube. It'll be interesting to see how it shapes up this year. So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Sam Harry. If you could include one character from a computer game in the WWE roster, who would it be? Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal might be mine. That is a very good answer. He'd be very intimidating.
Sam's. Just want to clarify, not yours. That would be Sam's answer, right?
Yes, that would be Sam's answer.
So my answer would be Solid Snake from Metal Gear.
I had a feeling you were going to go there.
Dude, it's perfect. Imagine he would never have a match, because whenever he would have a match, he would come out first. The second person would never come out. And turns out they were hidden behind a box or inside of a box, choked out. That's how he would win every match. He would be perfect for Attitude Era wrestling, just tranquilizer darts, murdering everybody, just putting people underneath boxes, distracting them. The man was meant for the Attitude Era. Vince Russo would have a field day with somebody like Solid Snake.
Who the heck would I put? A good video game character.
Think about some of your favorite games. What are some of your favorite favorite video games as a whole?
My favorite games would be weird. Like, I love Donkey Kong Country. Like, I wouldn't put a Donkey Kong can't just be
Harambe and wrestling.
Harambe, yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. I don't feel like, Donkey Kong or Link would be very good in the wrestling ring, But
Link would come with a manager.
Yeah, he'd have Zelda, but he fights with a sword. He doesn't really fight with...
Navi, man, what the hell?
Oh, yeah, I guess Navi makes sense. Listen. Worst manager ever. Yeah, a lot of those games, I feel like the characters wouldn't really make sense for it. Is there anyone in Overwatch who would be good?
From Overwatch, like Reinhardt? Probably Tracer. Reinhardt would be OP. Maybe Tracer. I think that she'd be great in the women's division.
He has to take the suit off,
Yeah, that could work. I would say Lucio. I would say Tracer, and I would say maybe Soldier. Soldier,
yeah, or Hanzo, because everybody picks Hanzo.
No, actually, Roadhog.
Roadhog
versus Braun
Roadhog would
Strowman.
actually be pretty sick.
Actually, just put the whole roster.
Yeah, put the whole roster. Even Overwatch. Bastion. Bastion just turns into a turret and shoots everybody.
You kill everybody.
Yeah, including the audience. It would be a mess.
Oh my god.
That's what happens every time.
Why are we laughing about that?
Yeah, it's not cool. So thank you for the question. Our next question. Oh man, I read ahead on this one. Our next question comes from TMK Tanner, and he asks, "What is the meaning of life?"
The meaning of life. By the way, there is an ice cream truck going by, so if anybody wants some ice cream, I don't care if this is
a sign.
pre-recorded.
I think we figured out the meaning of life.
The meaning of life, honestly, for me, is food. Good food. If you want to live a healthy, fulfilling life, get some food that fills you up. Because whenever you have a bad day, Jackie Chan Adventures reference. Okay.
Bad day.
And Uncle. I want to go to the whole shtick now. Life is defined for me by two things. Anybody that's listened for a while knows it's defined by food and bad references. This is me in podcast and out. Even at work, people look at me like, wow, you are freaking lame, man.
Magic must defeat magic.
Anybody that out there that loves Jackie Chan Adventures, I think will highly appreciate that. But real talk, yeah. Meaning of life, have a goal, set it, and kick your ass to reach that goal. And in the way, if you struggle, have some ribs with some sweet potato, brown sugar, and butter. Amazing.
Yeah.
What about you, man?
Let's see. If we were to boil it down to just the most raw definition, it is John Cena. That is the meaning of life. It is either that or survive and procreate. Either way, I'm failing miserably at them. So thank you for the question.
Wait, before you go, sorry to cut you off, because I know Keith's answer would be the meaning of life is live hard, die young. That is actually his life philosophy.
That's going to be the name of his autobiography. So get ready for that one. Comes out 2025, so stay tuned. Thank you for the question. Our final question comes from True Prince of Pro, asking, and if this always happens, I swear to God, anytime Keith isn't here, the question is, does Keith fear Bailey Bears?
Do you think he does?
Yes, I think he does, because
Why?
There's a lot of things that Keith is unpredictable about, in how I don't know how he feels about something. So because I have no idea how he feels about Bailey Bears, Bailey Bears, not beers, Bailey Bears.
That's not PG.
I just feel like he is weirdly afraid of them. Like they freak him out.
I will say I don't know for a fact he fears bears or Bailey Bears. I do know what Keith is afraid of. And we're going to be together during WrestleMania weekend, and I may exploit that. But I'm not going to say that here because live hard, die young may apply to me if I say that right now. But, I mean, who wouldn't be afraid of Bailey Bears or bears or even inflatable
Are these like
men?
her version of Care Bears or something?
Maybe, but dude, Care Bears, maybe
he's afraid of the Care Bear stare.
All I'll say is, and you can imagine what word I was actually going to say. You don't want to mess with Care Bears, man. They will kick your ass. Care Bears are nothing to laugh at. Real talk.
Great life advice.
Yeah, so we kind of transition from the what is the meaning of life. Meaning of life is being deathly afraid of bears of all kinds.
Seriously, polar
guys.
bears especially. You know, those of you up in the Arctic or whatever, look out for them.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be the most aggressive.
But if you see a panda bear, hug them. I finally got to see a panda bear in person.
Panda bears are very aggressive, I've heard.
I don't care, man.
Don't hug them.
Dude, I want to hug a panda bear even if I die. Because what better way to die?
Is that how you're going to go out?
Dude, if I had to choose between dying of old age or being hugged by a freaking panda bear, come on, man.
He's not going to hug you back.
Bears, they're
he will not hug you back.
I don't care. I will have hugged him, and that's what matters, or her. What if it's like a cub? What if I hug a tiny cub?
You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go to one of, and they probably don't even do this with pandas. But you ever see those things where people get pictures with like tigers and shit, like Because it's because they go to these countries where it's totally cool for them to just drug the ever-living shit out of these animals so that you can take a picture with them so that they don't kill you right then and there on the spot.
I went to a zoo in San Diego, and I could have had an opportunity to do that, but unfortunately, it was like $200, man.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to spend that money, but
yeah.
What are we talking about?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if there's a place where they do that, but you'd have to like hug a heavily drugged panda bear so that it wouldn't destroy you.
So if we bought Keith a panda bear suit and I hugged him, would that be okay?
Yes. And I have just a legitimate question, because I've heard about this in Australia, right? That there's this thing. I heard it's like a myth called drop bears, right? They're these like nasty koala bears that hang in the trees, and they got these super sharp teeth. And when you're walking through the forest or whatever, they literally just drop down onto you and attack you. Right?
Jeez, they're like ninja bears?
Yeah, so if there's anyone listening out in Australia, let me know.
We do have some Australia fans.
Yeah, let me know if those are real or not. Because I already don't want to go to Australia because I feel like everything there kills you. So for people who are surviving out in Australia, please let me know. Because I would like to go there.
Just let us know, yeah.
I would like to go there.
Australia as a whole.
But like there's those Sydney funnel web spiders, dude. Those things are nasty. They can swim and they'll yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with those. Anyway, please let me know about that for personal reasons.
Yeah, any Australian listeners, just tell us about Australia and we'll read about that on the show. We need to do this right now because the idea of ninja koala bears, it's cute. It's the cutest thing ever,
Look
man.
Look it up on Google.
Until they kill you.
Man. You won't be thinking they're cute after that.
Okay, I'll have to do my research, but thank you everybody for the awesome questions. And Ryan, you've been talking, but now you're going to talk some more right now.
All right, that I will. So thank you guys for listening to another edition of the Byte That podcast. Hey, we once again like to congratulate Britain how did you pronounce it? You have a hard name to pronounce.
Yeah, so I pronounce it Britain Hitchmo.
Britain
is the way
Hitchmo.
I pronounce it.
Congratulations on winning the BT Crate. We'll be getting in touch with you to send that over to you, sir. So, and thank you so much to everyone else who entered. There'll be plenty more giveaways down the line. So if you didn't win, don't worry. There's going to be more opportunities for extra content, including a Smackdown 2 gameplay video and my full review of TLC. Head over to youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Hit the subscribe button if you've not already. If you'd like to listen to more episodes of this audio podcast, hit the subscribe button on iTunes. That way you know every single time we've got new content up.
And reviews.
And if you would like to support us, go the extra mile, get some sweet perks in return for as little as $1, you can get this podcast live, raw and uncut in video form. You can head over to patreon.com/ByteThat. All the information is there for all the perks and rewards. We're heading towards our next goal. We just hit our first goal, so there'll be a 12-hour wrestling video game stream soon. If you want to get in touch with us on social media, at ByteThatCast on Twitter. We got a Facebook, facebook.com/ByteThatCast. We've got an Instagram, some cool other stuff. You can head over to ByteThat.com. That's got everything there, including ways you can ask questions for this podcast. So that's going to do it for us for this week. We will see you next time. What, are you all right?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just hitting myself with titles.
Sounds like the usual for you. Anyway, see you guys next time.